It took me 24 years to realize this. It took me 24 years to stop resenting my childhood and my teenage years, because there was one thing that I've never done before. I never reflected on my past. I never reflected. I never tried to understand why things were like they were in my teenage years. Because of that, in my teenage years, I became desperate, and I just stayed stuck on the one thing that I thought would change my life and finally give me an out and finally have a fulfilling life. Didn't happen, obviously. Obviously, when you're a kid, you don't really think that much. You just are. You're not developed enough to think very complex things and deep things. You're just not developed enough to do that yet. So you kind of just are. You just are, basically. And what happened to me was I grew up with a very spiritual family, and I was quite spoiled. Not to an unreasonable level, but it did shape how I perceived my life. And when I was very young, it was more like, well, I could rely on that I could get the things that I wanted, and I had a vague perception that God would make everything sort out. Just not just, and that's what I relied on. And I never bothered trying to fit in when I was a kid. I kind of just did my own thing. If I wasn't initially interested in something, I just didn't do it. So I didn't try to fit in, and I was very alone in the beginning. When I was very alone as a kid. And again, since you don't think as a kid, you kind of just are. I used to compare myself to other kids around me, and I used to think that, oh, but why do they get nice things and I don't? And I used to think of myself, well, I'm a good person. I don't tease people. I don't make fun of people. I do what I'm told. I do what the adults do. I believe in God. I thought that made me a good person. Why don't I deserve good things? Obviously, that's not how life works. And obviously, you learn these type of things when you grow older, and you learn these things when you grow older. Except what I never did was I never looked back. I just always just went with the flow. When I didn't fit into my surroundings, I decided to rely on myself, and I found personal hobbies and personal interests that I felt gave me something. And it stayed like that for many years, many years. So even in my teenage years, I was pretty much alone, and I was heavily inspired by Chester Bennington when I was like 13, and I started developing my singing skills because of the lack of validation I received by my surroundings as a kid. That had an effect on me psychologically. That when I now discovered something, and I thought that I became very good at it, that I developed a sense of grandiosity. I was like, "Yeah, I'm finally gonna matter. I am impossible to ignore. My success is undeniable." Except obviously it didn't happen, but I kept holding on to that idea for many years. I don't know, 5 years. I became broken. I was lonely. I didn't invest in friendships and relationships. I just invested in myself. I thought, this is what I wanted to do. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do so badly. I'm gonna make that pay off first before, and everything else will follow. That's how I thought it would all turn out. I became very broken. Obviously, that's not how you're supposed to live a healthy life. And when I was 18 years old, I met a family friend. I became friends with someone who is a friend to my family, and she saved my life. It took me 3 years, but then even then, after I was healed, even then I didn't realize what I was doing was wrong. Only recently did I realize it, because I just ended 1-2 months ago, I ended a friendship that wasn't very healthy for me. It was a 10-year-old friendship, but these are the type of things that happen when you just let things happen naturally. You can get anyone and anything can happen and come into your life, which is what it did for me. So I finally decided to end that friendship because it was not healthy for me, and I decided to make new friends where I work. And then something hit me. I started questioning. Okay, but how was I able to make friends now, but not before? And then it clicked. Then it clicked because for most of my life, because of what happened to me when I was very young, I decided to rely on personal interests, which I then became obsessed of, and then which broke me because I never reflected, I never looked back. And now I don't resent my childhood anymore, and I don't resent how things were when I grew up. And I guess my message is, please try to avoid making the same mistake. I don't have any regrets whatsoever. I am perfectly happy with the person I have become today. It did help me. It helped me believe in myself, in my values, and not trying to fit in. You should never lose yourself and who you are as a person. For It's always good to adapt, depending on the situation, and you need to make an effort.